cloud.
Here they come. I'm muting.
All right. Welcome everyone to this COVID-19 fundraiser virtual event. Hope you can all hear me well. If you cannot, please raise your hand or put in a chat question. Um, we'll get started. So again, welcome to this taking time out. First of all, I would like to start by thanking our speaker, David Barrett, for agreeing to do this for us. It is our honor to have him here today. Just before I get started, just a little bit of ground rules. Okay, so we are PMI Northeast Ohio chapter is organizing these webinars. There's one today, obviously, and then tomorrow and day after. These are free events. You don't have to pay or donate to attend these webinars, but any donation is really welcome. The idea is to take these funds and donate it to a local charity. Many of us, many people we know are getting impacted through this crisis. So doesn't matter, no amount is big or small, any donations are welcome. The screenshot also shows you how to donate. It's on the same registration page that you are on. Okay, so moving on. This session is eligible for PDUs. We'll provide the PDU code towards the end of the presentation. You'll also get an email as an attendee with the code if you don't fail to note it. Questions are welcome. Use the chat option. I will read out the questions at wherever David likes to take a pause and ready to answer questions, and we can get those answered. We are recording this webinar, and the recording of this will be available on our chapter's YouTube channel. You'll also get a link for that. And then towards the end of the presentation, there's a small survey that helps us collect some feedback, any comments, questions, anything you can help with, okay? So with that, let me introduce our awesome speaker today. As I was going through his bio, I was astounded at the amount of things he has done. He has been It speaks to his broad career. It speaks to his broad interest in various different things related to project management. He is a professional speaker, regular blogger, podcast host, author of 8 books, and also education advisor. That's awesome. And as you can see, he also is the originator, contributor, and also creator of some of these major conferences. And also recently, he also launched a TED style virtual event related to project management. So I feel very honored to have him today as our speaker. And the topic he's going to talk about seems very relevant for current times. Without any further ado, help me welcome David Barrett. David, please take over.
Thank you very much, Prasanna. I'm thrilled to be here. I think you've got my screen. It's a little sound check here. You got my sound. You got my screen there. Prasanna,
Yes,
good. We're
yes,
all set to go.
Yep, everything is coming in.
So thanks for the introduction, but I have to tell you, you missed the most important part, which was the last line in that slide. I'm a PMI member. I have been a PMI member, Prasanna, for a lot of years. 1995, do the math somehow. This year plus, what is that? 20 plus, sounds like another 5 years. So joined in 95. The PMI was about 30,000 large. I think it's just rounding 800,000 now. There weren't a lot of PMPs out there. It was a very new kind of thing. Man, they were good times. If you, as I've told many audiences, if you could spell project management back then and you had a PMP designation or anything like it, you could sort of write your own check. It was very exciting. So I'm thrilled to be here, and congratulations to the chapter for putting on such a cool event. When I rounded the corner, I got closer to the data. So how does this look? And that's what I always do as a professional speaker. I don't pay a lot of attention early on, but then I get closer to it a few days out and I go, okay, so what does this look like? Now, if I'm flying to it, it's even a little sooner than that. I've seen a virtual event 2 days long. I'm not too sure anybody's going to last for 2 days. I've launched Project Talks Virtual, projecttalks.com, at 2 hours. Man, you guys have done this really well, and I want to commend Todd and Prasanna and the gang. This is really impressive. 3 days, 1 hour each. I mean, you're addressing our time constrictions, our time problems, and I congratulate you. We're going to take a quick little poll, but we're gonna talk about strategic thinking. I want you to understand that this isn't strategic planning 101 for the corporate person that's way up there in the C-suite. I mean, what a drag that would be if you had to sit in on this. This is about strategic thinking in 3 parts of our lives. That organizational strategic thinking, whether we are up there or part of that process, or maybe it's a not-for-profit, or maybe it's a PMI chapter. We're on the board. A lot of us are volunteering our time, and I'm the chair of a board of a not-for-profit here in my own town for children's art. Strategic planning is critical. So there's that piece. But then there's the piece about our careers. And I say, so where are you headed? That's strategic thinking as well. And then, you know what? Just got married. I didn't. I got married 30 years ago or something like that. But even when we got married, let's start thinking about our lives. And even as someone in their 50s or early 60s, what's the critical piece about your life strategy? Yeah, retirement. It's a 30 year life. So we're going to address all 3 segments, and that's what we're going to do. I'm just going to give you a quick heads up. I've done a booklet. It's a booklet. It's not a book. It's a document. It's a PDF that I have for all of you if you want to download the book at the end of this presentation, which is my little candy to say, stay part of this, and I will make sure that you've got a slide that shows you how to download a book, a collection of my blog posts. But we'll talk about that later. So let's do a quick poll. Prasanna, if you could help me out with a poll. I want to ask you a couple of quick questions, folks. If we can get that poll up there, I think so. Okay, I want you to answer 3 questions. Number 1, have you ever been directly involved in the strategic planning process of any organization, PMI chapter, your own organization, maybe you're an entrepreneur, maybe you've been an entrepreneur, that, okay, we are going to take 3 hours to 3 days to think strategically and plan it out, yes or no? Second question, do this quickly if we could. If I asked you what you wanted to be professionally in 5 years' time, do you have any idea? I mean, have you really thought about it? Have you thought about where you want to be and maybe thought strategically about your career? And finally, do you have any form of strategic or life plan for you and your family? Have you thought about you and your partner, or just you personally, whatever that unit is, and where you want to be in 3, 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Is that thought? Now be honest, folks, because I think you're going to be a little surprised at the answers. Okay, Prasanna, let's have a look at the results, if you wouldn't mind. Wow, a lot of you in that strategic planning process of any organization. That is surprising. Where you want to be professionally, the majority of yes. Oh, sorry, no, I got that right. Yeah. Yes to that, yes to that. I guess I got my questions mixed up there. And pretty even split, 30, 23 for have you got a strategic plan. Most often in part 3, give me a break. Do we think strategically? No, we wake up, we deal with the kids, and we do that for 15 to 20 years, depending on how many children we have or more, and we just try to stay afloat. Where do I get the time to think strategically about our lives? So let's talk. Thank you for that. That's great. Gives me a good idea of what we're dealing with. So what? Why do I think this is such an important piece? Published a book last year called the 7 Elements of Strategy Execution. And it's all about this strategic piece. Not necessarily like the 3 parts of our lives, more of a corporate thing, but organizational thing, but so important. Why do I think so? I talk this talk because I think it's important that all of us think about the future, that all of us, and here's a key word, take control of our future. I have people in my life that just love to wing it. Maybe you know someone that just, oh, come on, you guys, what's this all about? I just take day by day. I just live. Oh, really? So in any part of these 3 pieces, just living is dangerous as far as I'm concerned. Living is just, I was a whitewater canoeist. I loved it. And the first thing they taught you in whitewater canoeing, and you're at the top of whether it's kayaking or canoeing, you shoot down the rapids. Got it? You can have your paddle up there or just kind of dip it in. And who's controlling the situation? Your first lesson you learn about whitewater is that if you don't go faster or slower than the water itself, you are not in control. In order to be in full control, you've got to back paddle or even forward paddle, a little scarier, go faster or go slower. You can't let the current take you. And that is the critical piece to strategic thinking. If you just let life take you, you know what? Honestly, I've heard people at their deathbed. I've heard people that are elderly. I've heard people my age, elderly. No, I've heard people young that says, gee, it went quickly. And where did all the time go? And why didn't I do what I really, really wanted to do? Why didn't I make it happen? Well, make what happen? Oh, I had a dream to travel there, and I had a dream to build that, and I had a dream to be that in my corporate life, organizational life. I wanted to run a restaurant. I wanted to see the world. Why didn't it happen? Because we don't think strategically, because we don't put a process in place. It is a science, folks. It takes time, it takes energy. It is a science to think strategically about these 3 pieces of our lives. It's just, for me, it's that control thing. Karen and I were first married. When we were first married, it was crazy. I had no children, second marriage. She had 2 children, second marriage, and they were young. They were 5 and 7 or 6 and 8. She's downstairs. I hope she didn't hear me that I forgot the age of the kids when we got married. But it was craziness. I just closed a business. I had no income coming in. I had debt up to my eyeballs. It was craziness. How did you think we were feeling internally? Were we nervous? You bet. Was it a whole new life and it's exciting? Crazy exciting. But was it scary? Absolutely. We sat down very early on in our lives and said, okay, let's get control of our fear. Let's get control of reality of the current state. And let's talk about where we want to be and how we're going to get there. It's a pretty simple formula. We started looking forward just 1 year. Oh God, just let us stay in control. Let's let 3 things happen. If I could do this, this, and this, would we be all right? We'd be all right. Well, let's work on that. Strategic thinking 101. So whether it be your personal life, your career, or your organization, if you get it under control, if you think it through, if you apply the science, then you've got control. then you know what? The fear goes away. And these days with this pandemic worldwide, it is scary. And I know some of us have lost our jobs or we've just been put on hold. And will we be coming back? My son's a pilot with Air Canada. You know what? He's made the 2 cuts so far, but will he make the 3rd cut? It's scary stuff. So we want control. And this time, if more than any, let's put a plan together and let's think it through. Well, we don't know what the future's going to look like, David. We don't know if it's all going to ease up and when it's going to ease up. Okay, that's fine. But strategic thinking doesn't necessarily mean we've nailed it and that we know what the future holds. Strategy is also about dealing with uncertainty and setting up a few options or looking at different doors that we could go through. Let me talk about each of those 3 pieces briefly and explain to you that in both work and our careers and our lives, we want to think about a formula. We want to think about the formula, and I got to keep looking at my watch because I really want to stay on time. This is a 3-hour presentation. I'm going to take 4 because I know this. No. I just want to make sure we're on time. So every once in a while, I'm going to look. In each of these 3 pieces, the formula is the same. And I'm going to go through the formula first, and then we're going to go through examples. And I'm actually going to do a little workshop with you on one of them because, you know, let's apply what we think. But I also want you to sit back and say, well, this is not all me. So all of us have a life, and all of us have a future, a personal life beyond our careers. Is that worth strategically thinking? Absolutely. As I said, sometimes it's scary. Sometimes you are in the middle of massive change in your personal life. Maybe you're now unemployed. Yes, it now needs strategic thinking about how we're going to live, how we're going to make it all happen in the next few months, what we're going to be like as a family unit, and how we're going to make it work. And then we look at our career in the middle and say, well, maybe I'm out of work, maybe I'm fully employed, and maybe I've got a dream. And if you have a level of uncertainty in your career right now, then this strategic thinking is critical. If I were your coach, and I just hired my own professional life coach, my professional coach, professional coach, life coach. I hired a professional coach a year and a half ago. Man, why I did it so late. Actually, I have 2 other books. Just because it's interesting, I wrote, and we say I published 8 books. Well, I didn't write 8 books. I got 25 other project managers to contribute 1 chapter each. And then I did a second version just recently. The keys to our success. In this one I wrote actually, and I wrote, the key to success is understanding never going alone. Never think that you can do it all yourself. As a project professional, I preach, please. This is not a new thing. Someone in the organization has been there. Someone in the organization has experience if they haven't been in this specific project and dealt with your specific requirements and your specific problems and issues. They have enough experience just to deal with it anyway. Never going alone. And the reason I say it is that coaching is important. And sometimes when we look at these 3 pieces, we need help. And first key piece to this is sometimes you need to bring in someone to help you out. So before I get to the formula, heads up, maybe you don't do it alone. Maybe you bring in a professional to help your chapter or your not-for-profit go through that strategic planning process. Someone that really knows how to do it. The nice part on the work piece is that someone you're going to bring in typically won't have the politics and or the knowledge of your company to the point where they get muddled in it and they get driven by different issues. They're clean. They got no axe to grind. Bringing someone in to your professional strategic planning piece. Brilliant. I did it finally after all these years. I wrote that stupid chapter about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and I didn't even follow my own advice. Well, finally I did. And I went, why did it take me so long to sit with a professional and say, this is the career I'm dealing with. This is where I've been. This is where I am. And this is where I want to be. Help me get there. And it's a great service. Life plan. Are there life coaches out there? Well, of course there are. There are many life coaches out there that will help you. There are people, professionals in many different areas with different titles that can help us plan our lives together. There are now, with the baby boomers retiring en masse, I can tell you, in this pandemic going on as well, there are a lot of people out there looking for help about the next 10 or 15 years. And it's scary. There are a lot of people that thought they were going to retire in 10 years and are retiring early now that are just going into a planned retirement, and all of a sudden the whole financial impact on their portfolios is huge. And there are people out there that just plain old weren't ready for retirement. There are coaches that can help you. So think about, this isn't just you alone. Ask for help. Ask a friend. Ask a couple of people. I've done this. Every new idea I come up with, I put an advisory board together. I'm just now launching this new virtual event called Project Talks. 4 speakers, 20 minutes each, just like TED Talks. Project Management Focus is called. You can find projecttalks.com, small plug. But what I did was I ran my first one 2 weeks ago. We had 300 people. And now we're going to run another one. So I brought 15 of those people that attended together on a conference call for an hour. Coaches. Strategic thinking about the event. What did we do right? What did we do wrong? What could we improve? And how are we going to take this forward? And then in fact, we're actually going to build a virtual portfolio of 20-minute project talks. And we're going to put them into a website called Project Bites. Strategic Thinking 101. Bring a professional in. Put an advisory board together. Go get help. In life, get 3 or 4 friends. Hey, I want to buy you a beautiful dinner at the nicest restaurant in town. Wow, that's really nice of you, David. Well, before you go on, by the way, we're going to spend 20 minutes doing social, and then it's all about me. And I want to talk all about me for the whole event. And for the whole dinner, I'm footing the bill. It's an advisory board meeting with you 3 people who I really trust from different parts of my life to help me through a hurdle, a hump in the road, or just simply looking at my future. Get up. Okay, let's look at the science very quickly of strategic thinking, or strategic planning, I should say. Okay, so strategic planning has 3 pieces to the puzzle, and I can tell you that all three are absolutely critical, and one is the most critical, and the first one is the one that we all miss, because when we start thinking about the plan, where do you go? The future. Of course we do. We love it. I'm an entrepreneur. I think of everything that's new every 3 days. Karen says, enough, David, no more. My wife says, no more brilliant plans, because 3/4 of them aren't very brilliant. Why don't you stick around and try and execute the ones you thought of last month? It's not quite like that, but it's close. So the critical piece is understanding you can't just jump to the future. What we always love to do is we love to go to the future, and we used to plan what we could build, and it looks like this, and it's going to serve these thousands of people, and it's going to make this much money, and it's going to make me a happy professional. Blah, 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 blah. The future, the future, the future. Number 1 step in every strategic plan, folks, before you jump to the future, because so much of this first piece is so critical to talking about the future. That is, and I've got a chat box there. People guess it. I don't see it. I don't. There's a chat box. We got a little chat box going there. Great. So what is the most critical piece? Okay, I'm in the chat box now. What is the most critical piece do you think? Karen, by the way, title of my book. I'll tell you about it in a minute. What's the most critical piece to a strategic plan? Not the future. What do we need to do? Analyze the past, Susie? Yeah. What do we call it? Not just the path, but it is part of the SWOT. So Joe says it's a SWOT analysis, strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats. I get that. But what's the SWOT analysis part of? Laura Donald, you win, nothing. But it is absolutely called the current state. And they're known by many other different versions. But so Fred says it's the vision. Well, that vision is the future piece. What's the most important part? It's the current analysis, current state analysis. When you do any strategic plan, folks, do not forget that the strategic piece, the current state, is the most critical piece. When I sold a business of mine, a conference business, I was running project management conferences around the world, Project World in Canada. The brand was Project Summit in the United States, and Business Analyst World as well. When I sold, the buyers called up and, hey, send me your strategic plan. Well, I was running the thing out of a basement, and I had 2 people working with me out of their basement. This is when working out of your house was not in vogue. I didn't get this. I talked about the future, and they said, well, send me the proper strategic plan. I know what you want to do, but send me the plan. Well, what was the components? The current state. The current state is the piece of the puzzle that says, what and where and who am I now? Yes, to one of you, to Susie's point, it includes the past, yes, but only in order to show me where I am today. It's got nothing to do with tomorrow. It's all about today. When we're working with a not-for-profit, what are some of the pieces of the current state? My financial position, what we do as an organization, what we do well, what we do not do well, where our strengths are, where our weaknesses are. Says Joe, the SWOT analysis, what our strengths are and what our weaknesses are, where the gaps are. Great, love it. Our financial position, but as well as our human resources component. Who works for us? What are we doing here? Who are our leaders? Who are the people? Where's the engine? What does it look like? The current state analysis. In fact, a lot of people think it's just SWOT. Well, it isn't just the SWOT analysis. It's much, much more. We delve deeper into it. We go to our competitors, a complete competitive analysis. Whether it's our organization, we can talk about the other two pieces as well, because all of this fits. We could talk about our competitors, our marketplace, our industry, all the things that could change, the raw materials that we're using, are they at risk? So strengths and weaknesses, current state. Opportunities and threats. So let's do a quick one on that, because I can tell you it always confused the life out of me. How do I sit there and go, what's an opportunity? Well, an opportunity, here's my formula, and I think it works. Opportunities, write down all of your strengths in one column, and to the left, to the right column, beside each one, write as many opportunities you can think of because of that strength. Forget tomorrow and forget where you want to be. This is your analysis part. Just tell me, because you are a strong professional speaker, because your organization is wealthy, has good cash reserves, because your organization is #1 in its class in your city, what are the opportunities? Growth, acquisition, other stuff. As a speaker, well, you're comfortable on stage and you can talk top of your head for an hour. Wow. Opportunities, professional speaking, training, opportunities. You know what I don't want? That doesn't matter what you want or don't want. It is the current state analysis. Do you get that? Opportunities. Write down all of your weaknesses. As a result of every weakness, give me 1, 2, or 3 risks or threats to your business, to your organization, to your life, to your career. What are the threats to your career? I'm unhealthy. Well, maybe you can't move it. I can't drive, or what? Those are stupid examples. What are the threats to your career as a result of these weaknesses? SWOT analysis. But again, the SWOT analysis is only one piece of the puzzle, ladies and gentlemen. When we go to the current state and we finish it, we should have a nice thick chunk of that binder, really well set out for the reader, because then we want the reader to go to the future state. And the very intelligent reader, or the coach, or your best friends that you're entertaining for dinner, are going to say, gee, you've designed a future here that's pretty cool. I love it. But I'm looking at the current state and wondering, how does this work? Because these are your gaps, and I doesn't really quite fit into that. And as a very intelligent and strategic thinking person, or professional, or board member, or executive director, you might say, yes, we've identified our gaps as a result of this current state analysis. And because of, I'm doing this right, we've identified our gaps. And because of our vision of the future, we have recognized what we have to do to fill the gaps. Cool. We're going to hire a person. We're going to raise some money. Great. That current state analysis was so critical because the smart person is going to analyze it and say, this is not going to work because of what I read over here. The future state is that beautiful vision. It is your ideas of what it looks like. Sometimes the future state, ladies and gentlemen, is quite foggy. It's your career 18, 15 years from now. It's your organization 5 years from now. Who knows if this pandemic is going to rebound? Who knows what we look like in a year? It's scary. So sometimes it's foggy, and or, especially today, sometimes there are 3 doors. If it happens like this, this is our future state. If this is our future. And if this is our future. Wow. Thank you very much. A very analytical process to this strategic thinking. Part 2, the future state. And of course, once we know A, and once we know B, I'm not quite sure which way you're looking at it with the Zoom thing, because I think it's backwards. Once we know A and B, we can then start putting the pieces together and say, great, how are we going to get there? What do we need to do? And notice that it's not all a slam dunk. Because of all this good news, we can do this, but maybe here's the bad news. Here are the gaps. Here are the threats to our business. Here are the opportunities to our business. I've got stuff I can look at, and now I look at where you want to be, and I can say, wow, let's start pulling the pieces together. 3 pieces to that strategic plan. Current state, critical. Don't miss it. Future state, it's the slam dunk, it's the fun part. And then, of course, as project planners, project managers, project professionals, how do we get from here to there, put the plan together and analyze the risks, talk about schedules, talk about control, talk about responsibility. This is the easy part for all of us, quite frankly. So I've kind of hit on all three of these areas, but just to go a little bit deeper in each piece, let's pretend and talk about us as board members of the PMI chapter, or board members of the local not-for-profit in Cleveland that serves the homeless youth in the neighborhood. When we talk about our organization, a couple of things I got to admit to. One is we're volunteers sometimes. We're typically volunteers. And then putting our brains to it is difficult sometimes, but we have to. And that's why we stepped up to volunteer. We have to put that strategic thinking hat on. However, it is recognized, and I will give you credit for the fact that we are busy. You're really swamped. And so when you get time to think strategically, part of that book, Candy, that I'm going to give you, has it's actually a collection of my blog posts. I write every week, and I've been writing every week for 6 years. And I want to say that because I got tons of material that I can create books. I created another book, Leadership Perspectives, this one. And this is a collection of blog posts for the first 3 years. So top red, I went into the website analytics and collected my top 3 years. However, what I did this time is I collected the top 15 read blog posts on strategic thinking. So that's what this little booklet is all about. And you get to this work piece, and it's really critical that that we take time to think strategically. And this is what my point is, it's really difficult. Where do I get time to think strategically, David? I'm working operations day in, day out. I've got my job at the bank over here, and I'm volunteering over here. And because sometimes I start only thinking about my role, not for profit or on the board, 3 days before each board meeting. It gets crazy. You must put time aside in your life to think strategically for that organization. My group up here, I live in a town called Collingwood, Ontario, 2 hours north of Toronto. We're going to do a strategic planning meeting together to help. This is called The Magic of Children in the Arts. We run children's workshops, art workshops around the regional schools. And then we run public workshops, and we have a huge display of the art that we put up in the public library that no one saw because 2 days later it closed. And it's still there now. We're going to meet today at 3 o'clock to try and figure out how to get it all down. It's very sad. But we need time to think strategically. None of us have. We know we have to put the time aside. Put the time aside, get someone maybe external or someone internal that's good at facilitating the meeting and keeping it flowing. Get someone to put the time, help you execute this strategic planning process. Critical that you do it for your not-for-profit. If it's an organization, if you are a senior director in a company, if you've started your own business, put the time aside. Go out to the lakes, sit on a deserted island, go to the beach, go to the country, take your people away and just say, we're away from the phones, we're away from the distractions, no one can walk in our office. It is time to move our brains to this strategic thinking piece. Think it out and then put a process in place where we can start creating the plan. And creating the plan isn't easy. In our lives, in our careers, I call it your professional strategic plan. And here's where we're going to do a quick little workshop. I want you to get a paper and pencil out, please. Paper and pencil. Paper and pen. And I want you to write 3 things. If I said, where do you want to be in the future? I want you to go out 5+ years. So let's go 10 years. Now you might be close to retirement. Maybe it's retirement. What does life look like? What are 3 things you want your life to look like in 10 years' time? I want to be the CEO of this organization. I want to run my own business. I want to open up a restaurant. Don't do that. I want to, in 10 years' time, I'm going to be X position in another industry. I'm going to move industries. I'm going to be on the board of the PMI in 10 years' time, and I'm going to be the president of the PMI. That would be lovely. 3 things. And that's hard. Maybe you didn't come in there, but in that little survey said, yeah, a lot of you have thought strategically about your careers. Where do you want to be? I want to be retired. I want to be employed. Second section, 3 things that I want you to tell me about today, your current state. 3 things about today. Give me 3 strengths. How's that? Give me 3 things that are about you that are really strong. I'm a great professional speaker. I'm a good presenter. I'm articulate. I'm compassionate. I'm empathetic. I'm a great leader. I'm a very nice person. 3 things that are really strong. Okay, let's do another piece. Give me 3 weaknesses, professional weaknesses, things where you have a gap. If I said I'm going to give you $5,000 to get training, to go out and improve yourself professionally, where would you spend it on what? Okay, where's your gap? Maybe you want to be a professional project manager all your life and your gap is you don't have your PMP. That's fair. One of my weaknesses, I don't have my PMP. I don't have subject matter expertise. I'm having trouble breaking into the crowd. Why? Because I'm brand new. One of your weaknesses is that I'm very new to this organization or this industry, this world. Okay. So folks, welcome to Strategic Planning 101 about your career. I call it your professional strategic plan. Current state and future state, future state and current state. Now I do a one-day workshop sometimes with chapters and we spend a lot more time on it than that. But we really drill down on leadership components because it's about being a leader and getting to the next level. And I can tell you, I think project managers make great leaders. So it's called from a good project manager to a great leader. But it helps me think strategically about how I'm going to get from here to there. What there looks like, what here looks like, and filling in those gaps. So it's kind of like this in the time allotted. It's a good start. Third piece is how am I going to get there? Give me 3 action items for the next year that will help you get from there on the one top of the page to there. Yeah, from there, the top, to there, that middle piece. Look at them. Look at your weaknesses and gaps. Give me 3 action items. Attend a conference, going to take a course, going to write the exam, going to seek out a counselor, a coach. I'm going to start thinking a little bit more long-term. Give me 3 action items. Every strategic plan has a current state, a future state, and that third wonderful piece is great. How am I going to get from here to there? That piece of paper is your start. That is your strategic thinking. When Karen and I met, and we go to that personal life, when we met, we sat in a bar and we had a glass of wine and we had dinner together away from the kids. A babysitter was there, and we started thinking about our future. We started talking about the kids and we started talking about my career. And it was in the dumps back then. And we started talking about Karen and her career, and we started talking about all the components of our life, our health, our spiritual life, our friends, our relationships, our relationships with the kids. I had 2 new kids that weren't mine 3 months earlier. So, whoa, bam, here we go. And I can tell you, one wasn't as easy as the other. And of course, the one that wasn't as easy is one of my best friends today. You got to work at it. And you just can't work at it. Sometimes you need a plan. Sometimes you got to say, this is a problem in my life. I'm going to work at it. Sometimes you got to say, I'm going to go to a future state, and in order to get there comfortably, I need to do this and this and this. Maybe it's meet new people. Maybe it's take up a new sport or a new hobby. Karen and I are older, and we thought, 10 years ago, 2 things we wanted, 3 things, in order to be prepared for the last third of our lives. Play bridge, learn how to play bridge, learn how to golf, and learn how to road bike. Get the road bikes out so we could maybe travel through Europe on road bikes. We thought that'd be cool. Maybe we could learn how to play golf and take up our time golfing in the summer months. Oh, that'd be great to spend time together and just walk for 4 or 5 hours doing a sport, keeping active. And bridge, keep that mind going. The bridge is phenomenal. We have already played. I played twice this week. Karen's played 3 times already, virtually with our friends using iBridge Barrett. It's a great, it's tough. I still get lost. Golfing, we're waiting next door. We're up here in with a golf course right across the road, which we've joined. We are waiting for the club to open so we can get out there and golf. We're not great, but we love our golf together. Road biking, that one didn't work. We loved it for a while. We went to Europe, didn't carry it through. Doesn't always work. Future state, current state, how am I going to get there? You got to put a plan together, get control of your life, ladies and gentlemen, so that you can make it happen. Some quick comments before I move on and maybe open it up to some Q&A. Love to chat with you. Why do strategies fail? And this is actually the reason we wrote, my friend Mona Mitchell and I, now I'm not sure if you've seen that backwards or not, the 7 elements of strategy execution. Strategies fail because we do the plan, current state, future state, maybe how we're going to get there, and then we do a whole bunch of things. Go back to work, forget to put someone in charge, forget to follow up, get distracted, There are many reasons why strategies fail, ladies and gentlemen. One of the big ones, because the plan at the beginning was just poorly put together, because the current state analysis was weak. Assumptions were made for the future state that you could do it. And if you look here, you realize if you've done this properly, if you've done a full HR analysis, if you've done a full marketing or a competitive analysis here, you would have realized this was not going to work. That merger, that new product line, that new whatever wasn't going to work. If you knew that you really hated golf in the beginning and you tried, I remember some guy said, yeah, I tried. I was convinced golf would be it. And it took me a year to figure I hated golf. Sometimes it just doesn't work. Strategies fail because we didn't do the analysis. Because we did the analysis, we had a good plan and we didn't follow through. Because we didn't go get the golf lesson. Because we didn't go meet those new friends. Because we didn't hire a professional to help this organization get to a new space in our marketplace. Because we didn't invest the way we said we should have invested. Or we didn't invest because we didn't have the money. Whoops, current state analysis fail. There are many reasons why strategies fail, but I can tell you, personally, professionally, and corporately, but organizationally, Forbes.com will tell you 60 to 65% of strategic plans fail in one way, shape, or form for various and sundry reasons. And yes, it can happen personally as well. Personally and professionally, sometimes you know what? It'll happen. But don't worry about that, because I'm going to tell you the one other key piece to this whole puzzle is that we need to stay agile. Agility when you are thinking strategically is absolutely critical, ladies and gentlemen. Get on your toes. Pivot. I'm a professional speaker. I've been traveling like mad in the project management, primarily a keynote to project management conferences for 5 years. Pivot really fast in the last 4 weeks. I'm running this Project Talks event in person, different chapters around North America, a lot of travel, and it was good, great product like TED Talks and in person and 2 hours long. For virtual, yeah, let's try a virtual event. Pivot. Ran it once, let's do it again. Pivot. Wow. If we've got 4 and then we're going to have 8 20-minute sessions, maybe I can call on the 230 other speakers I know, seriously, and get them to contribute 20-minute sessions to a portal. And maybe we can get a whole gathering of these things together for people like you to browse and get PDUs and see great speakers maybe to bring into your organization or your chapter. Pivot. Agility. Move fast. People shook their heads 2 days ago, went, oh my God, you move quickly. This wasn't even in the horizon a month ago. I said it wasn't even there 3 weeks ago, but things change. And you and I know things have been changing fast. I'm going to go back a slide just because I want to say, you know what, the wrap up to this is that in all 3 of these areas, the key is looking ahead and creating that vision. Building a plan, and that plan has to include the current state analysis. It's so critical. Executing that plan. Just because you built it doesn't mean it's going to work. And in fact, it probably won't. If that binder is going to sit on the shelf for your organization, it's going to fail 65% of the time, says Forbes.com. If you've put a life plan together and you've got some good action items for next year for you and your spouse or a partner, if you've got a career objectives and you've got 3 conferences you want to attend, or 2 of these 3, and a couple of training courses and 5 other people you want to meet, and action plan on your LinkedIn profile, you got to do it. You've got to execute. And you've got to put key milestones ahead of you on your calendar. Say, is it done? Or 1 week before this was promised, give yourself some deadlines. And then, of course, and as I said at the end, be ready to adjust, replanning, keep on executing. Because that agility piece, when we are thinking strategically, is important. Don't get sucked into, we created this plan, we're stuck with it. The stories we could tell, if you're interested in the expansion of Target into Canada, it is a classic. We were destined to fail. They were destined to fail. They launched, they put out, and I'm going to make up the number, like 120 stores across Canada. We call it Target. They closed within 2 years, a year and a half, put 17,000 people out of business. It was doomed to fail halfway through the plan. No one had the nerve to say, stop the car, pivot, this isn't going to work. You need the strength to say, stop the car. Maybe we have to rethink this out. Folks, this is so critical to me, and I'm so glad you were here. Quick little commercial, projecttalks.com. Please have a look. We're going to launch our new event, our second virtual event, in about 3 days. I've just finalized the speakers this morning. It's going to be great. So projecttalks.com will lead you to Project Talks Virtual. The one that's there now was the previous, but you can go in and look at who was speaking. But stay tuned. It's going to be a great series event offered every second month, with eventually a portal called Project Bites, which is going to include a whole bunch of those cool speakers. Here comes the candy, and here's comes how you're going to get there. So this is a book I put together for this purpose. This is my answer to, well, let me share a whole bunch more to you. And as I say, I write every week. I publish, so you can follow me on my website, davidbarrett.ca, and you'll get an email at 2 p.m. every Wednesday today from my website saying, hey, new blog post. But this little booklet I put together, everyone should have a vision. These are the titles of my post. Strategic thinking starts at home. Have you started your personal strategic plan? Are you thinking strategically about your career? And the 5 reasons strategic plans fail. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Good things leaders do when they're mindless about execution. So a really fun piece. I'd love you to get it. The way you get it, and I could have put the silly URL right down to it, but it's easier if I just did a quick page. It says at davidbarrett.ca/free book. davidbarrett.ca/free book. Okay. You are going to be filling in one of those MailChimp forms. I'm asking for first, last, I think a state or province, and your email address. I will never use the data for anything other than my stuff, and I will not bombard you for anything other than Project Talks, because it's going to be a very cool product. Love you to attend. So that's a little bit about the candy that's available now. If you go to davidbarrett.ca free book, thank you so much. Someone in the Q&A said, what are the titles of those books? Well, there they are. There were 2 called The Keys to Our Success. All of these are available at Amazon.com. Power of the Plan is project management for non-project managers. There's a BA book. Leadership Perspectives is a collection of some old blog posts. Strategy Execution is my second to latest on strategy. And the lasted 29 project management professionals contributing to a new book called The Keys to Our Success, 2nd edition. Man, this was fun. Prasanna, it's 12:44. I think that's pretty good. If I talk for another 15 seconds, we got to 12:45. We really thought that 45 would be good, that I could take some Q&A. I sure hope that we could chat for 15. I'm certainly available. I am going to shut up and say, Prasanna, back to you.
Awesome.
Sharing or stay sharing? Did you want me to?
Yeah, stay sharing if people want to write down the names of your books.
Okay, and there's the free book URL up there as well.
Yep. I will take it over in just a minute. First of all, thank you so much, David. That was extremely informative. I think it was very well laid out in terms of step-by-step plan. I do not see, there were a couple of questions on the website, but I think they just got the .ca wrong. But I think they answered themselves.
The book website showing error 404. Never mind. I used .com. Yeah. Yes, he's the Canadian in the crowd. Iona, or Iona. .ca for Canada. Someone introduced me. Someone once from California, and I went, "What?" He said, "Well, .ca." I went, "No, Canada." A. Of course, that you guys know all that. You guys, we're all so close to each other in geography. You Canadians aren't so foreign to you. Okay. Back to you.
Awesome. So I do have one question from my side. So what was the first thing that you realized when you said you hired a life coach a year and a half ago, and you felt, why did I not do this before? As you are going through this planning, are there like revelations that you would not have arrived at yourself without the help of a life coach?
Absolutely. I mean, a third party who's not married to you, who's not your partner, who's not your child, who's not your best friend, they have no axe to grind. They're looking at you going, "Are you kidding me?" And that's what she said. Within an hour, she looked at me. She said, "Are you kidding me?" When I did the SWOT analysis, she didn't go through the SWOT analysis, but when I look at my weaknesses, I'm going to mute myself for a moment and cough. When I got this little microphone, by the way, just underneath the camera there. When I when I look at myself, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a dreamer. I create stuff. I created this Project Talks thing 3 years ago, and then I've got my professional speaking, and then I deal with 9 universities across the country. I run a master's certificate in project management, and then I had a recruiting business years before that, and then I ran. Enough already. So she drew it all out, and she looked and said, "Are you kidding? How do you get anything done well?" And I looked at her and said, "That's my problem. I don't execute well, and entrepreneurs don't execute well. We dream up things, and often we're good at opening the door, but we're very poor at execution. That's why you got to get rid of the founder fast, or put them in a room and make them the chief something. But other people have to run the company. My biggest revelation was that I was way too thin, and I was just doing way too much. And stuff that I was doing was not going to contribute to the long-term plan. What's the vision? Then why are you doing this? That's where it was gold. That's where a person says, really? You want to be here and you want to be there and you're doing all of this? To what end? I get this and this, but what about these other 5 things? It was really good. It was really good. An outsider is just, it's a perfect answer.
I could not agree with you more. I'm pretty sure a lot of people in the audience are relating to being stretched too thin and working on what's easy versus what's important.
Yeah. What's easy versus what's important. Here's someone that we know and love dearly, Todd Jones. Should we answer a question from Todd there?
Absolutely, yeah. Please.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Do you want me to read out to you?
We can just ignore him and take him off. Oh, no, I'm not. Anybody else? No. Okay. So Todd says, what advice would you give to someone who is not very entrepreneurial to think more strategically, be more forward-thinking and risk-taking? So I don't know that I would say that you should take more risks. I don't know that my advice would be you take on more risk and be more entrepreneurial. We all can't be entrepreneurs. Thank God we aren't. And in fact, there are people that I have someone in my life who thinks he is, and he keeps floundering and failing. The stuff he comes up with because he wants to be called an entrepreneur, and he wants to make a fortune selling it. I can tell you that those 2 pieces of ingredients do not go into by any stretch, any success. So I wouldn't convince anyone to be an entrepreneur. I would feel it in them in the moment I met them. She says, I stared your eyes. She did. And she said, you know what? You were normal until you talked about 2 components of what you do, 2 of the 9 things you do, David. And you lit up. And that's where I want to focus. And it was not funny. I don't feel it. But she said, well, it was pretty obvious to me because you got all excited. And wow. So you don't want to convince people to get out of the skin they're in. You want to be very careful, Todd, about advising people to do stuff that they're not happy with. There are many people in this world that are just simply happy about a progression towards a senior position and retirement in their organization and from their organization, and it works. Normal works. To entrepreneurs, to the normal works person, to anybody in the audience, I still say, think strategically. It isn't that you need to make changes to your life. But heck, let's do a quick 10 to 5 to 1 minute on being a project manager. I just want to be a really good project manager for the rest of my life. Did that include anyone in the audience? I'll bet it did. That's all right. What are you going to do to be a good project manager for the rest of your life? What are you going to do to be counted, to be able to get the next gig, either as an independent project manager or a project manager within the city of Cleveland or the state of Ohio or wherever you work, the university? What are you doing to stay relevant? Because your strategic plan is to be a great project manager and continue to be successful. I can tell you that if you're not very careful, you are going to be irrelevant and counted out in 5 years if you don't start thinking about your career and what you are going to do to make yourself more relevant. Strategic thinking. This is another whole piece of another whole speech. But how do we take our careers to a level that we want to that will sustain us? And you're just not going to do it by winging it. You're not going to do it by waking up every day and taking up the next project gig. You're going to do it by thinking about artificial intelligence and robotics and where think about the space where new projects are coming from. You're going to think about agile not because I believe agile is taking over the world. It isn't, but because it's a good option these days for some parts of our projects. You're going to do it because you're connecting with really great project managers and good project content. I should stop. Think strategically about your career, even if it's just, I want to be a great project manager. I know I didn't answer the question, Todd, but I get I get to babble
I think you did, David.
a lot.
Um, all right, so I'm going to take over the screen. I don't see any more questions coming in, so in the interest of time, I want to just share the PDU code. Um,
I gotta stop share.
okay. Um, all right, so that should be visible now. So on the screen is a PDU code for this session. This qualifies for one strategic PDU. This will also come to you via an email in a few days once the webinar session is done. Again, David, thank you so much for your time today. We wish you all the best in your strategic goal of being part of the board of PMI board and the president of PMI one day.
I'm not doing that. I am way too old for that. I've been there, done that. No.
Um, for the audience, I just again I would like to remind you that there are two more sessions in the next 2 days. Some very an awesome speaker lineup. And again, urge everybody to take a moment to donate for the great cause. There are a lot of people less fortunate than us. Local food banks. We will be publishing which charity we'll be donating to, but then the goal is to help out businesses and people who cannot afford fend for themselves. Okay. With that, over and out. Thank you everyone for joining today.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. It was great to meet all of you
Yeah.
virtually.
All right. Thank you.